Greetings and welcome to the United Palace of Spiritual Arts here in Washington Heights in Upper Manhattan. And we are here today to meditate the vote. And we are so honored, Sister Jenna, to have you back with us again this morning. And thank you very, very much. What an honor. And can you tell us about Meditate to Vote? This is something that's been an inspiration for you. It's something that's been reoccurring, as we know, but what makes it so relevant today?
Well, everything. But firstly, thank you. It's always my privilege to be with all of you from United Palace. What an incredible space and what an incredible group of people that you have there. So it's actually my honor, Heather, than anything else. Meditate the Vote started a few years ago, maybe about 4.5 years ago, when we were just, encountering a very different form of politicking. And there just has been like a lot of vibrations that don't serve the higher purpose of an individual or our country. And my deepest feelings was based on if we can just be a little bit more reflective and to be able to really look inwards and make the decision based on the experience that is emerging from being reflective, then our vote will be something that we will feel comfortable with and would live with. So when we started it about 4.5 years ago, it was incredible. And it brought to life many, many other movements of individuals doing programs, from the Shift Network to Unify to organizations to companies to churches to spaces that really brought people together to really think about, well, how do we approach the polls, or how do we vote? How do we approach this particular voting season with a kind of an attitude that won't be so judgmental or critical, which is what the whole campaign was 4 years ago or much more. And so it was just my intention, Heather, can I just get a calm, please? Can everybody just calm down? Go inwards, ask yourself the right questions, and then based on those answers, cast your vote, and you'll be fine with the answer, and you'll be fine with your vote. And that's really the genesis behind Meditate the Vote.
How wonderful. And it makes me think of the current season. And I think it is sort of calm down and meditate and think of, why am I doing this? As reflecting this morning in years gone by, I was one of those people who kind of waited to the last minute. And I know a lot of our viewers will have voted already. So thank you all. And some of you might be like me in years gone by, who just kind of waiting, for whatever reason. And in the past 1 year, I couldn't find the poll. They kept saying, oh, it's this school or that school. We changed the address. And so I just had to calm down and say, okay. And then, was able to find it and cast my vote. This year I had moved. And so really trying to figure out the registered, where it was registered, the envelopes, how they all work together, and whether you're voting by mail or online. The forms can be confusing as to which line you're on, what you fill in, what the process is. So I love the idea of just calming down. And there are people around that can support you. And so if you haven't voted yet, we encourage you to watch this program to think about what voting means for you, and your decision will be the right one. And just know that the process is possible if you take it step by step.
I do want to recommend a program that we have been partnering with the Oprah Winfrey Network, Own Your Vote. If you go to that website, they'll give you every bit of information you can possibly find to make voting easier for you. And so, like Heather was saying, she couldn't find the polls. So I just imagine how it's really getting tighter and tighter. So I'm really, really urging all the citizens who still are sitting at home waiting for the last minute, because you might not think the mail-in ballot is going to count. I don't know myself, but the earlier you put it in, the better. So if anything comes up, you could always have a second option, plan B, to see if we could definitely move forward. But now, I have to tell you, Heather, are you seeing it? The light in the midst of the darkness, where over 60 million Americans have gotten off of the couch and said, I got to do something. I
Isn't
mean,
that
just
wonderful?
imagine what's going on.
Isn't that wonderful? And it's people of literally all ages and backgrounds are getting out the vote. Of all cultures, of all dynamics that have never voted before, or past elections kind of just didn't get out, and that makes me think about. I know it's a question that's asked over and over again, and yet I know you can answer it in a unique way. I'm just me. And so people might say, well, am I powerful enough? And it's not just does it make a difference, but it's really what difference does it make? And, I'm just here and really, because that gets back into that kind of, am I enough? Am I enough? Am I powerful enough to vote? Will it make a difference?
Those are some of the questions that we designed for Meditate the Vote.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Why I think those questions are important is that when we go to the polls, we take our souls to the poll. And whatever's inside of us is what we're voting for. And that has a ripple effect not only in our personal lives, in our homes, in our cities, in our states, in our country, but also in our world. And so when there's a question like, am I really powerful enough? I've grappled with that. I'm in the backyard of the White House. I go to the White House. And still a part of me wish I had more power to maybe make changes that I feel would be more beneficial. And so, power comes in different ways. I know that I have the power of peace. I know that I have the power of silence. I know I have the power of love. And I know they're making changes. But now when it comes down to the grassroots change, like don't fire, tear gas at my own people. Like we shouldn't be using certain things against our own culture and our people. We should be having dialogues and conversations. So let's say if I was in power, I would initiate that. I would find a major town hall meeting to talk to my people online to say, what do you need? Tell me. And do some sort of an assessment that I don't have to be firing tear gas at my own citizens of my country. Sometimes that hurts my heart, Heather, but I don't give up on the fact that I do have the power of silence. I do have the power of peace. And I do have the power of love. And I won't say that those aren't making some sort of an impact. I know they are. It's just that they're so subtle that sometimes you don't see it. And so sometimes I wish I had more of that physical human power to initiate changes in policies, in decisions that are made physically to impact people's lives. And hopefully one day I will.
Yeah. And we all know you certainly do, as we all do. We all have a power and a soul and a grace. That's the connection to the divine and the knowing and the internal light and external light that gives us that. I saw a recent story that I loved. It was, I think they were 3 or 4 years old, and they couldn't vote, but they started sending cards and postcards, and they got a list of people who had not voted. And there was this team that expanded and expanded of children under the age of 5 writing these notes saying, please vote. And how powerful is that? Imagine getting a card from a child saying, please vote. That would get me off my seat. So we often have power that we don't even know. And it comes back to that self-worth. And I've certainly had many times in my life that I didn't feel worthy even of getting out of bed or of doing anything. Or even this call is like how honored is United Palace to be having a conversation with you and the people that are listening, and how grateful we are if this message can bring some calm, some peace, some activation to just one person. And so, I think this whole area of self-worth can be perhaps something people who have voted, who haven't voted, who are just, looking at the upcoming times going, what can I do? How do I do this? How do I cope? So would you talk about self-worth a little bit?
There's a famous saying, as is a city, so are its people. As is a country, so are its people. And so how are we doing as people in the United States? What is our interpretation, understanding, or experience of the way we value ourselves, not just as American citizens, but as children of God, as souls, as human beings inhabiting the planet, whatever's the language or the way you want to position yourself on the world or in the world. Self-worth is huge, Bishop Shea. It is huge. I've considered myself someone who has lived a very noble, very value-based life, and I still struggle with self-worth. There are moments that I shake inside. There are moments inside that I question if I should do this. There are times that I've even watched myself slouching in my chair, having a glass of water or something, and watching myself as a witness and saying, is that the way you really want to be sitting in your chair, Jen? I mean, it's that little. I mean, that seems little to you, but to me it's huge, because the little behaviors that I witness that are less than my best self, that's less than what God would love, that's less than if I was a princess in a castle. You know, if I treat myself with that less than energy, it feeds the lack of self-worth that maybe I'm not even in tune with. So I pay attention to those little things that I know show up in big ways later on. And again, it's so little. Just yesterday alone, you're going to laugh. You're going to think this is really silly. But I was just in my room and I didn't have my glass next to my bottled water. And I remembered I'm doing these waters now with alkaline, because they keep telling me I need to build alkaline in my system. And I have these, like, the bottled waters about this big. And I happen to have just kind of, I picked up and I caught myself and I was like, this looks really odd. And I just go, I know it seems really small, everyone, but you've got to understand, if we're going to raise our country up to the level of integrity and honor and value and worth, we have to be that for ourselves. And even if when you are alone and there's no one watching you, you should be your witness. You should be observer. You should be the one that determines, can I do that better? And how does this play out in my country? Because as a vibration, the way I treat myself, it ripples out in the country. So that's where I think this whole notion of self-worth is so important. Marianne Williamson has a lovely saying about, you are more afraid of your light than you are of your darkness. And a lot of people talk about these are dark times in America. And some people will say, no, they're not. These are the times of the greatest revolution of all time taking place in this country, and it's long overdue. I don't know why we see things differently. Of course I know why, but we're on our journey on our own. But there has to be some sort of a universal principle that can hold us in check and say, it seems as if you're afraid of your light. Aren't you willing to look at love and use love? And I would love for us to hear this thing from Marianne, who ran for president, and I'm not endorsing her, but there's so much about just the words and the things that she has spoken that I feel lends truth to what we're going through in the country right now.
Thinking about that and the self-worth, I remember a dear friend of mine once said to me, he said, why is everybody so happy? Everybody's so happy and they're so nice to me. And I kind of looked at him, because actually we were walking down the streets of Washington, D.C. And I said, because you are so happy. And he just radiated happiness. And so people would just smile at him walking by in a place that people weren't normally smiling. And I had the same thing with him walking down the streets of New York. And he wasn't, kind of some weirdo smiling. It was just who he was, and his presence was so alive and present and optimistic, and it had a real effect around him. And so,
So imagine if everyone is
yeah,
angry and afraid, and I get that. I mean, I have found myself, I've stopped watching the news intentionally, but I've kept up on my Twitter handle, which I need to somehow reduce as well. But I come across certain information, everyone, and it bothers me still. And even though I know that for me, my understanding is everything seems to be so preordained, predestined. Why do people go to psychics? Why do people go to astrologers or numerologists, or even read their scriptures, or go to someone who they think knows a little bit more than they do? It's almost as if we have this innate sense that things are already pre-recorded, pre-scripted. We just don't know. And we want to do our best to respond to whatever's pre-recorded in the highest degree that we can. And at the same token, we bump into emotions like rage, anger, judgment, frustration, anxiety. We bump into an emotion that's debilitating the whole planet, fear. And we feed it as if it's part of the pre-recording saying, you're going to get to a point of time in your life. You're not going to want this energy in your spirit anymore. And so vote yourself out of the energy of fear by really tapping into yourself and recognizing, what do you have to change within you to really impact change, not only in your country, but in your own personal life. There's so many people out there fighting for change, fighting for freedom, but also I've witnessed and I've counted so many people in the world and in leadership too. They themselves are a part of the problem. So you're out there fighting to end injustice and all of these things, but you yourself are doing things in your own home with your own family that's not right. So of course there's going to be frustration. Of course there's going to be a sense of personal deception going on that you walk with as your shadow every day. So why I think Meditate the Vote is so important, it really brings you inwards to really check yourself first and become the change that you want to see first in yourself, second in your homes, third in your city, fourth in your state, fifth in your country. See how it ripples effect? It has to start from within you first.
beautiful. And we're going to be coming up on the final question. We could keep going, and I know we're going to share lots of images and other thoughts and other people along the way. Let me just ask you, because it's related to that, this whole environment now of fear. And I think it's important for people to be informed, but the news is creating a lot of fear. And a lot of it is about the other. And the other whatever it is, the person next door, the person down the road, the person of a different culture, the person of a different whatever. Can you, is there a way to have these conversations in peace and collectiveness and unity? Or what is the way?
I sure hope so. This Caesarean way of being, where you go out to the masses and try to find out what the people want, and then you step on a podium and tell the people what they told you they want, that you tell them you're going to give them what they want. It is so old. I mean, it is so old. It's such an old political way of actually, I don't know, controlling people. I just want to back up a little bit and share a personal reflection and feeling. As I matured my own life on my journey, I've also had to make adjustments and learn about what is truth from illusion, what is really real. I've been in moments when I've been deceived. I've been deceived by a narrative. I've been deceived by a person, a thing. I've been deceived by myself. I just didn't use my discerning abilities to determine, well, really, what is right? And I'll tell everyone out there who might be tuning into this, when you turn your attention inwards and really become still, the energy, automatically, the energy of love and integrity and purity and peace will emerge within you. And whatever choice you make from that place will not harm a single soul. And first person it won't harm will be you. When you turn that energy off and you play into the attachments to your political party, your attachment to the color of your skin, your attachment to your religion, your attachment even to your state, your country, your wants, someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. Historically, we've seen no war has ever left a powerful or positive scar on the consciousness of its people. People have always regretted the casualties of war. We're now in a spiritual and an emotional war, and there are casualties already. Put aside the pandemic, there are human casualties, but emotional casualties of the hundreds of thousands of lives that have been lost as a result of this COVID-19. But the families that have felt grief and trauma as a result of the loss of their loved ones. Now, we can't blame anyone for that. We can only look inwards and ask ourselves, what do I need to do to get out of this energy that is creating and manifesting all of this? So I'm a lot more mindful in terms of serving this energy of anger or rage in the world. I will really think, and I really don't get angry, but I will really think before I really choose to say something that's going to hurt someone's feelings. And when I have been in that place, I'm living with a mother's living with me rather, who has dementia and Alzheimer's. And I have been short, everyone, with her. And I don't like that vote that I've casted. Because I know that when I'm short with her, I not only hurt me first, but then I hurt the environment. She's oblivious. She doesn't even feel anything. She just looks at me with love, as if she doesn't hear anything I've said, right? So it's so interesting how she doesn't even respond to it. But when I do something against my truth and my love, then the fear gets fed. And fear has become all too much a very common emotion and energy that the media feeds us, that our families feed us, that the society feed us. So let us think for a moment. What is my life? What is your life like if there is no fear in it? Give that some thought today to percolate and observe how would you feel without any fear in you. Fear of the future, fear of the economy, fear of your health, fear of your relationship. What would it be like if I transformed that fear and voted love in, and used love in the relationship, used love in my healing, used love in the way I will choose to vote for whichever candidate I wish to run the country, whoever I wish to have as my governor, my senator, congressperson, whoever it is? What would be the result? Would it be different? I think so.
Thank you. That was beautiful. And on that, I would love to have you offer a closing, just simple moment for us. And then I'll just say a few words at the end. And again, Sister Jenna, thank you so much for being our guest today. And thank you for all of you for joining. Sister Jenna?
It's been my pleasure to have been with you all today. I think there's never been such a watershed moment in my time, or in your time maybe, that every bit of us is needed to be a part of this narrative. And please don't deceive yourself thinking that you put a comment in and that's your gift, or you send out a tweet and that's your showing up. No, it's got to be more than a tweet or a comment. It's got to be that you've gone out in the community, you've done something, you're wearing your mask even though you don't want to, you're wearing your gloves, you're conscientious, you're making phone calls, you are supporting the candidate that you believe in, even if it's an hour. We've got just a few more days until the big day to till the big day that we'll figure out what will be the course of our country and our lives. We can do something if each and every one of us show up. Don't worry about how big of a way you need to show up to think you're making a difference. But even if you get on the phone banks, even if you call your congressperson, even if you're just aware of the needs of who are the judges in your town, what are their belief systems, send them a letter. If there's something that a member or a leader in your community has done well, write them a letter. I've just recently written a letter to our member of Congress about creating a task force for wellness, for there to be wellness in the community, emotional and mental wellness. Whatever comes into your heart that you feel will be of greater service, do it. Don't just sit on the couch. Don't just send a comment or a tweet, but do it. Another act of love that you can do is create these gatherings, create these conversations amongst yourselves when you're at home or on a Zoom thing. Have these dialogues with your friends about these questions. Do a little meditation. Look at all these factors. Go to americameditating.org, and you will see a page that comes up with Meditate the Vote. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can choose to do with your friends and with your family to help to make this voting season something that is not just about the anxiety or the fear of the unknown, but it's about the enjoyment of the participation that we are making a difference in our country. And it was about time.
Thank you.
Always great.
And thank you all. And I love that to come from love and peace. And we are honored to be coming from the United Palace of Spiritual Arts here in Washington Heights in Upper Manhattan. And we are serving our local community. Since this all began, we've kept our doors open as a church and being able to serve the community and serve the community at large. Sometimes now online, and also more and more in person during the time. We've been a provider to hospitals of PPE or whatever they need in the community. And now we're beginning to open up and looking forward to opening up back again as both a spiritual center where people come in and are in congregation together, as well as providing arts and making that available. So we look forward to seeing you online and in the future in person. Peace be with you, and remember to meditate the vote.